In this garden talk, I will share with you 5 essential things for the new gardener. Number 1, wear a hat. This is my Explorer hat. I've had it for about 10 years and it's still going strong. And I don't just wear it in the garden. If I have to go walking, I have my hat on. And it's not the most stylish hat, but the objective of wearing a hat is being able to stay in the garden longer. I can hide from the sun, I can keep cooler, and it gives me more endurance. A hat is essential. I'm also going to include in my talk 5 plants that I'm going to be planting in my garden. I've seen forsythia pruned into rounded shapes, and I've seen forsythia that has grown into hedges. I'm happy to have this plant. This plant was $4.99 from the supermarket, and it's small, but I enjoy growing plants from a small size to a larger size, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Tip number 2 is wear garden gloves. It is much easier to garden wearing garden gloves. It's self-explanatory that they protect your hands, but it's much easier to weed and to use tools, to prune, and to pick up rocks with gloves on. And the second plant that I'm going to talk about is clematis. I'm going to find a spot for this one in my garden. Clematis is beautiful on a trellis, or I've seen them growing up and entwined around a mailbox. And this little guy got a little bit bent the other day when I was moving things around, but I think it's going to be fine. This plant grows in full sun. It is H.F. Young variety. It was an inexpensive plant. I'm going to enjoy finding a spot for this plant in my garden. Tip number 3 is save your back. How you can save your back is by using a gardener's rocker chair. And what that is a low seat with a curved bottom, and a gardener can lean forward to reach plants and reach the dirt and do the gardening work. I have a bad back, and bending over is difficult. It aggravates my back. In the past, I've spent hours bending, stooping, kneeling, and I can't do that now. So I use the chair. And it is a wonderful tool. And the third plant I'd like to discuss is mountain pinks. This is emerald blue. It is a ground cover. It grows well in rock gardens and along walls. It can grow down. It's a spring bloomer, and it forms a dense mat, so it prevents weeds from growing up. Another way that this plant is very useful is in keeping soil from eroding. This can grow where there's a slope, and I love this plant. I smell a honey-like fragrance coming from it. I will find a spot for it in my garden. In my travels, I've been seeing it blooming everywhere, so I'm not the only one that enjoys this plant. This plant also comes in white, pink, lavender, and purplish colors. Essential gardening tip number 4, a hoe. This is such a fantastic tool. It is a Japanese tool. It's handheld and it balances very nicely. I can really, really whack the heck out of the ground and dig things up, and I can scrape. It's sharp. I found this at a family run garden center that I support. I like to shop there, and they have very good products there. And gardeners need to have certain tools. A spade is essential, um, a hoe is essential, and this just happens to be very easy for me to use. I'm sitting in my little garden rocker chair and I use this, and it is just great. I can really get a lot of work done with this. And the next plant I'd like to talk about is strawberries. I have a lot of strawberries growing in different places in my yard, and that's because the plants I planted last year made runners and grew in different places. So I can dig them up and I will have plenty of strawberries for a project that I want to do, which is use dollar store strawberry planters and make a tower or two. And so I have the strawberries that I can do for that project. And the fifth tip I'd like to talk about is handkerchiefs. Please take a handkerchief out with you or put tissues in your pocket, because has it ever happened to you that you're outside and then you suddenly sneeze 4 or 5 times? Or your nose just starts running? This is just something that happens to gardeners. We come in contact with lots of particles and lots of things from the plants and from the air, and then we might do one of these. I've done it. Well, the handkerchief. And the last plant I'd like to talk about is Dichandra. This is Silver Falls, and look how it grows. It's a spiller. It grows really long as well. This plant is wonderful in window boxes and in other containers with other plants. And you can use it as a ground cover. Now, don't forget to stay hydrated when you're in the garden. And I hope that this garden talk has been of interest and informative for you. Happy gardening.